Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to take a look at some TDM gameplay, which I played yesterday with the SKS. And we're going to try and figure out whether it's worth using DMRs in Team Deathmatch. So I'm sure that many of you would probably think the answer to that question would be a definite no. Because encounters in Team Deathmatch can be pretty random and the ranges that you have to engage people can change all the time. DMRs are pretty much only effective at mid to long range, so if you're engaging people at close range, you can expect to get killed quite a lot. Now, I would argue that if you can control the ranges that you're engaging people, then DMRs can be just as effective as any other weapon. Now, bearing in mind that I haven't actually played Battlefield 4 in a few weeks, so it's safe to say that if I was at the top of my game when I played this round, I probably would have done even better. But as it was, I actually did 18-5 in this round, which is pretty damn good considering I'm running with a DMR. Now, it's safe to say this isn't the most amount of kills I've ever got in a team deathmatch, and arguably I probably could have done just as good with another weapon. But that's not the point we're trying to make here. We're trying to point out that DMRs can be effective in team deathmatch. Team deathmatch isn't just about maximising the amount of kills that you get, it's also about limiting how many times you die. So the first thing I'd recommend with a DMR is try to pick your own engagements and don't get yourself stuck in situations that you can't get out of. For most of this gameplay, I'm sticking to the outside of the map and I'm not running into the section in the middle with all the containers. I know that I don't have the rate of fire to take on automatic weapons, so I'm not going to put myself in that situation. The other thing that's helping me pick my own gunfights in this particular match is the fact that I'm running a suppressor. Because the spawns in Team Deathmatch are pretty much random, you've really got to learn to check your minimap all the time so that you know where other enemy players are. If you're going up against decent players, they're going to be doing this as well, and the suppressor fortunately keeps you off the minimap. By using a suppressor, I don't have to worry about who's going to see my gunshots on the minimap, so I'm not really worrying too much about where I am on the map when I'm taking shots. There was a few times where I went completely undetected by enemies that were very close to me, and there was a couple of times where I knew I didn't have the advantage in position and firepower, and my teammates were actually able to come in and take out my target for me. So assuming you can stay out of sight, you should be able to keep firing on targets even if you're surrounded by enemy players. And you might find yourself getting out of sticky situations a lot more than if you had an unsuppressed weapon. So even though a suppressor makes a DMR a little more useful in close quarters, it doesn't change the fact that they don't have a very fast rate of fire, and that they're mainly designed for mid to long range. The first thing I'd suggest is that if you are going to run with a DMR in Team Deathmatch, pick one of the faster firing DMRs. The SKS has the highest RPM in the class, followed by the QBU-88 and then the M39 AMR. The M39 does slightly more damage at range, and the QBU has a slight edge in bullet speed and accuracy, but in my opinion for this sort of stuff you really can't go past the SKS. Of all the DMRs, it's probably the least capable at long range, but in Team Deathmatch you're very rarely going to be taking on targets at any more than about 30 or 40 meters. And at this range, the SKS is just fine. What I'd recommend for any DMR running in close quarters though, is like I explained before the suppressor, the stubby or potato grip to really tighten that spread, a laser sight or tac light for very close quarters engagements, and most importantly, a one-time sight. I know that the higher power optics are pretty popular on DMRs with other players, but in this game mode, they're going to be more of a hindrance than anything. In this clip, I'm using the HD33, and it's more than enough for any sort of engagement you're likely to find in a TDM game mode. So other than picking an appropriate DMR and picking the right attachments, what else should you be doing in a TDM that you wouldn't do in other game modes? Well, honestly, a lot of the tactics that you would use in other game modes apply to this sort of game mode as well. But you just need to focus on the fact that most of your gunfights are going to be at a much closer range than in Rush or Conquest. Make sure that you're using cover as much as possible, and like I mentioned before, positioning is probably the key to this game mode. If you're running into high traffic areas where you expect that there's going to be lots of close quarters engagements, you're probably not going to last very long. You've got a lot of rounds in your clip, but try not to reload unless you really know that you're safe. I felt like in this game I was a bit sloppy with that. Unfortunately I was pretty lucky and I didn't get caught on the reload, but that sort of thing is more likely to happen on this game mode than in any other game mode. So just try to be careful with your reloading. As with all DMRs, try to limit your rate of fire depending on how far your target is away. At anything under 10 meters, the SKS is fine to spam, but beyond that range you really want to make sure you slow down your firing so that you're not wasting ammo. And my last point, which is probably the most important, is consider each target before you pull the trigger. I know you don't have a lot of time, but sometimes the decision to actually fire on a target or not can be what saves your life. Sometimes knowing when to be defensive is just as important as knowing when to be aggressive. And if you find yourself in really tight quarters, don't be afraid to switch to a sidearm. The SKS is much better in close quarters than most other DMRs, but it's still not as good as something like a G18 or a 93R. And there was one point in this game where I got taken out by a recon using a G18 who was actually running a DMR as his primary. And the reason he won that gunfight is because he was smart enough to take me on with his secondary. So anyway, I hope you learned something about DMRs in TDM, and I hope this proves that some DMRs can be useful in Team Deathmatch. The most important thing to remember about this is that there is no right and wrong weapon to choose for any game mode. The choice is entirely up to you, and it doesn't matter whether you can really make it work or not. I mean, if you want to run with a Scout Elite and a 40x sight in a TDM mode, well that's fine. You're probably not going to get any kills, but that's okay because it's up to you. So if you like the DMRs and you like playing TDM, why not give it a go? But anyway guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and as always, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. This footage was actually recorded using the PlayStation 4 share function, so I apologise if it's not the best quality Battlefield 4 footage on YouTube. And I'm also sorry that I haven't posted a lot of Battlefield 4 lately. As I've explained in previous videos, I'm still stuck with the HDCP encryption that Sony has still not taken off the PlayStation 4. I'll hopefully have a few things in my possession this week that'll help me to bypass the HDCP though, so I'll be back to posting regular Battlefield 4 very soon. But in the meantime, please check out my other Battlefield 4 videos. There's a link to them all in a playlist in the description below. And until next time, see you later and have a good one.